Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, everyone. We'll get the right microphone here in this illustrious UBN studios. Greetings and salutations. We have tuned into, actually you and me, all of us, to Dr. Judy WTF here at UBNRadioNetwork.com. WTF stands for What the Freud. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, with Dr. Judy Rosenberg, the world-renowned therapist who has clients and patients the world over. And we are on iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Spreaker. And we are live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific here on UBNradio.com.
We're only alive on Thursday. Other days we're not alive.
No, we're not alive any other days, but for an hour, just for you. Exactly. Oh, yeah. And it's a call-in show, so if you want to be live with us alive, then you can call in at area code 323-843-2826. That's 323-843-2826. And if you are international, you can actually reach us on UBN Radio number 2. That's UBN for Universal Broadcasting Network, UBN Radio number 2 on Skype. And we will definitely get you on the couch with Dr. Judy with your emotional ouch. And we had a great show last week, part 1 of Sibling Rivalry, which I'm calling From Genes to Scenes. And we had 2 fabulous phone calls, 2 great ladies that called in.
Thank you so much for calling in. And we really do love call-ins. So
we do.
We have a lot to say, but we are definitely interruptible with call-ins.
Fully.
And I just do want to read a letter that I received from a patient of mine.
Well, that's funny. I have a testimonial.
Okay.
Ladies
go for
first.
it.
No, ladies first.
Okay. So no names mentioned, of course. I want to dedicate this poem back to her because she was kind enough to share her pain in poetry form. And so this is a woman who suffers from BPD, has a lot of wounds from her childhood, and this is what she expressed. Wounded soul, been out of control, nothing to give, I have a gaping hole. Afraid to be loved, afraid to be alone, come too close and I'll flinch like a dog with its bone. I'm broken inside, terrified and suicide. I idealize, but only realize I have cracked eyes. I don't see what you see. I see pain and hurt, anguish and fears. My life is full of running tears. I'm like a walking corpse, already dead, ruminating thoughts, plague and sick in my head. I feel such despair. Darkness looms the air. My heart is broken. My soul needs repair. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is very expressive of
It's amazing.
Of the hole in the soul.
Yeah.
And how do we get a hole in the soul? By being disconnected from. And when we're not treated with unconditional love in the form of parents who are there for us, mothers who breastfeed, eye contact, skin contact. If we don't come from homes where mother puts the child first.
And we've got our first call.
Okay.
Hi, you're on the air and on the couch with Dr. Judy. Who's this?
Hello.
Hello.
My name for this show is Varian.
Hi, Varian.
Hi, Varian. Nice to meet you. Thanks for calling in.
I'm in Southern California.
In Southern where?
Southern California.
Okay, great. Great.
So I found your show on YouTube because I've been studying the effects of narcissistic mothers and
oh, lucky you.
Your hands down the best resource I've found anywhere. Like, you're really helping me.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just started a book, so I'm
Yay.
kind of still absorbing everything, and I'm consuming a lot of your content on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I had a little bit of a story to share.
Okay, and the topic is sibling rivalry, so if you would be so kind as to somehow circle to that topic and maybe some part of your story.
Possibly,
And
yeah, if you can.
If possible. If not, we'll I'll listen and answer questions anyway.
Fire away.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no, it's all about that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm the third born of 3 girls, and all of us with different fathers. And listening to your shows, I've tried to nail down like the scapegoat, the golden child, lost child. And I definitely think that I was deemed golden child for the majority of my early youth. But I think my mom is kind of a master at cycling us all through those positions as a means of subversively encouraging us to compete for her praise and approval. So to this day, when somebody does something she approves of, or it's something that she can brag about to her friends, she'll like pump that person up the size of Texas with this crazy, sicky, sweet ringmaster shtick that's like to make it obvious that that person is like it in her book. And I think that that's why my sisters and I have such a hard time receiving compliments, because her praises never felt authentic. And that kind of attention is just like embarrassing, and it usually like led to jealousy from the other siblings because we knew what it meant.
Right.
And so I have a really sad story that I think kind of illustrates one of the ways that she would divide us and kind of pit us against each other, starting when we were young. My mom divorced my biological father when I was a little over 4 and raised the 3 of us on her own with very little money. We were really poor. She was always at work, and she couldn't afford childcare, so she really put a ton of responsibility on my oldest sister, who's 7 years older than me.
There you go.
And my sister would feed me and get me ready for school. She was like my caretaker.
Sure.
And when I was about 7, that same sister, who was then about 14, was really rebelling against my mom and sneaking out at night and partying with her friends.
Well, she lost her childhood. She didn't have a childhood.
Yeah.
Totally.
Making up for lost time. Yeah.
My mom was really oppressive, and she wasn't around very much, and she just couldn't control her at that time. She was kind of looking for her own independence, and from what I understand from what you guys are teaching, it's the second that somebody kind of reaches out with it for their own independence, it's kind of a threat to a narcissist. And I definitely see that as what has happened, because she put both of my sisters out at age 15 for the same reason.
Oh, man.
Well, one night she came into my bedroom when I was little, like 7, and she woke me up and she told me that my sister had snuck out again and that I was not, under any circumstances, to let her back in the house. And she said that my sister was very bad and that I was never to behave the same way that she did, and that tonight she was going to teach her a lesson that she had coming. And she told me that if I let her in the house, that I would be punished. And she went back to bed. Well, my room was at the far end of the house from my mom's bedroom. And unfortunately for my sister, it was the middle of the winter in the Midwest and like below freezing temperatures. And several hours later, I woke up to my sister knocking on the window, begging me to unlock the door and let her in. And she was crying and telling me she was freezing. And I was just paralyzed with fear and for her. But I knew I couldn't let her in, or I might end up like outside with her, kind of thing. My mom was so angry. And I was really torn. And I knew that running to tell my mom was out of the question, because we were absolutely not allowed to disturb her at night, and especially since she'd already told me what to do. Like, I was just kind of paralyzed. I was really little. And, like, the knocking and the crying stopped after a while, but I remember panicking the entire time that I ignored my sister's cries, and I was worried, like, through the whole night. And she ended up sleeping in an unlocked car with no heat. And I think I was so shattered by being forced to choose like my mother over her that I still have anxiety over it, just talking about it. And no one talks about it anymore. Like, this is the beginning of the nightmares of things that happen. But it was just a horrible position to put a child in. Like, in essence, I think my mom made me take the hit for punishing my sister, and where it was not anything that I should have to have dealt with.
Absolutely not.
No,
you know, what a sad story. I'm glad your sister did survive without frostbite. What a horrible position for you to be in, to choose between your mother and sister. I mean, that's the proverbial rock and hard spot. But you definitely understand that she was the queen bee, right? And she needed to take full control, and her power was derived by pitting one child against another. And so, from a clear lens of perception, right, looking at it now, can you see that it was absolutely not your fault, that you really couldn't make any other choice but to, what were your choices? Let her in and she'll throw both of you out, or keep her out and suffer from it. Have you and your sister ever talked about this? And have you ever made some sort of a amends around this?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
There's just been so many things, and it's just been recently that I've been trying to kind of recount the things that have happened and kind of write them down to just make some, history of all of this.
Journaling is really good.
For myself, because I'm
Journaling
really
is really
going
good.
through a process. I'm really looking forward to starting the process with you, actually.
My honor. Yeah.
I had therapy earlier in my life to where I didn't even know. I mean, coming from the Midwest, you're you're psycho or crazy if you go to see a therapist.
Sure.
When I moved out to LA, I just started having panic attacks, and it was just really overwhelming. I was agoraphobic because I was so afraid that something was going to happen to me if I got outside of my car. And so I luckily had a really good friend, my best friend from New York, who got me into therapy, and it really helped with my heart palpitations and anxiety attacks, and it helped me on the trail of understanding what I was dealing with. But unfortunately, I had a lot of repeating patterns that were starting to happen with all the other people that I've attracted around myself.
So I just want to say a couple of things, because I know we have a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So what I wanted to say is, this is a wound that I write a lot about, childhood wounds, but this is just yet another wound where the siblings wound each other, right? And then they feel the blame and the shame and the guilt of that. And then the parents get to, whatever they get to do, they get to derive power or some sort of control by virtue of the fact that the children are not getting along. Okay, so in the case of narcissism, the key injury is that she puts herself before you, and she doesn't think of how her instructions are going to impact you. And what healthy mother would put her child in such a position? Okay, so you can see that clearly this injury between that she's the cause of now has an effect on you and your sister. So I just want to suggest, somewhere along the line, if you have a really skilled therapist, or maybe me or one of my staff, at some point can create a repair situation whereby both of you can acknowledge that this unfortunate circumstance was not caused by anyone, but this was the effect of the system gone wrong, the mother system gone wrong. And of course, your mother had her own multi-generational wounds, okay? So you have my book. You're actually reading it now?
Yes, I just started it.
Okay,
Yay.
awesome,
Well, thanks for that.
awesome.
Good for you.
So yeah, please reach out, okay? And just understand that sibling rivalry is not the fault of the children. It's a system gone wrong, and sibling rivalry is the fallout material, and here it is. So do circle around, and hopefully we at the Psychological Center, either myself or one of the people on staff, can help repair what happened at the causal level, okay?
Excellent.
Well,
Thank you
thanks
guys
so
so
much for sharing. And
Thank
you know
you
what you
so
might want
much.
to do
Really
is, for
appreciate
start, I might make a suggestion, have your sister listen to the show, because you just told it on air.
Okay.
Say, hey,
There
it's
it
on
is.
YouTube. Can I play a little doodad from YouTube? Think about it. It's an idea.
Okay.
So thanks for calling. God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for holding. You are on the couch and on the air with Dr. Judy.
Hi. Thanks for
Hi.
taking my call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well,
pleasure. Our
thanks
pleasure.
for calling. And you're calling from somewhere in Southern California.
I'm calling from Long Beach,
Yay.
Great.
so
Okay.
right down the street from you guys.
Okay.
I'm dealing with a mother who is borderline personality with narcissistic personality, and I am not speaking to her or my sister at the present moment.
Okay.
What a mouthful.
My sister would be the golden child, and I would definitely be the scapegoat. So I'm trying not to have hard feelings towards my sister because I know we were raised in dysfunction.
Right.
But it's really, really, really hard not to have some animosity towards her when I'd like to have a relationship, but she clearly is on my mother's side.
Well, let me ask you, what side of the what side is her bread buttered on?
My bread is buttered on my side.
Yours on your side. What about your sister?
Well, she's definitely on my mother's side, and there's so much dysfunction that goes on. The enmeshment is so incredibly bad.
Yeah.
I don't even think she realizes how bad it is. And I know she's suffering, which hurts me for her.
Yeah.
But when I've tried to talk to her about it in the past, she runs to my mother's defense like there is no tomorrow.
And one thing that you could do that would be really helpful to your relationship, if you could have one, is to not blame her for having a relationship with your mother. Okay, that still is her mother. You're right.
I certainly do not blame her. And I was in therapy. I was in therapy for a year and a half, about 8 years ago. So I thank you guys very much because you are like a tune-up for me. When I feel like I'm having a little bit of guilt, like I should be part of the family, I have to listen to the YouTube videos that you guys put on.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
So I can be tuned up, because sometimes the guilt has been so overwhelming when you've been told you're the problem for so many years.
Okay.
That you kind of need to go back into fine-tuning, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And let me say a couple things about guilt. Guilt is a self-infecting system. It's not progressive. So the better way to go is self-reflect and self-correct. So if you self-reflect on your situation, the truth is, because I really do love the truth, is that you're not the cause of this very poor family dynamic, okay? You're the effect of it.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's not fun to be the golden child. I know golden child sounds like such an endearing term. It's not. It comes with a whole set of guilt, shame, and blame that I'm sure your sister is carrying, and so she has a very horrible situation to deal with herself. That if she vies toward your mother, then she's betraying you, and if she talks to you, she's betraying her mother. And this is a horrible situation. Like with the last caller, if she listens to her mother, right, then she is betraying her sister who's knocking at the door and trying to come in. And if she listens to her sister, then she's going to get punished by mother. So this is a rock and a hard spot situation. The only thing that you can do is feel free to stay out of this dysfunctional system, get the therapy that you need, have the boundaries that you need, and the rest is the multi-generational mess that was caused by your mother, your father, their father, so on and so on. And, the only way to break it is it has to stop with you.
Well, that's the thing with the boundaries, because I've been putting up boundaries since I was probably, and I know it kind of sounds funny, but probably around 12 when I first started to develop my own individuality, and they didn't seem to like that.
Oh, they're not going to like that.
Oh, no, I can assure you. And now I'm 47, and my boundaries are 10 times stronger, which makes them infuriated. Of course you can imagine, but they are beyond infuriated. So putting up the boundary, for them, it means, well, we can't have you part of the family because you're not part of the dysfunction anymore, and they don't like that.
But see, do you see how the parents, the mother, father, whoever is the causal position, they set up the chess pieces, and then the siblings do their bidding. Some people call them the flying monkeys. Right.
No, absolutely. Can I tell you I'll make it very brief because I knew this on a time limit.
Go for it.
My sister and I have had kind of a broken relationship for quite a long time because she's definitely been my mother's emotional caretaker. And about 5 years ago, she had lost a significant amount of weight. So we tried to do some bonding, and her and I went clothing shopping for her new body.
Yeah.
And we had such a great day, her and I. It was the first time really in our 40 plus years of living together that we had actually bonded. And when she was driving home, guess who called her on the way home?
Ah, she can feel the energy leaving her solar system. One of the planets is missing. the revolving.
Guess who called my sister
I
on the
have
way
no
home?
idea.
Why
Blanking
am I
on
not
it.
surprised?
Well,
Right.
my mother called my sister, and she kind of chewed her out a bit that she wasn't contacted during the day to see how things were going with me and my sister. And my sister called me and said that it pretty much ruined the day that we had because my mom took it all away from us.
Well, that was her intention, okay? And she
Of
was going to
course it
monitor that you guys don't get too close, because if you get too close, then it's kind of like she's the sun and the planets revolve around her. And if one of the planets don't, then that planet has to fly off the,
you've already learned that.
the axis.
You've already learned that with your strong sense of self, right? You don't revolve around mom, so
That's right.
you're not giving her the narcissistic supply that she needs. So, you're
and
just
I
not
called
it.
her. I mean, the good thing and the bad thing about it, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of props here, is I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I do call her out on a lot of her nonsense.
Yeah.
So I think she knows that I have her ticket, which really, really makes her mad.
Of
so then
course.
she goes, of course, on the smear campaign, which
Right.
it's relentless on what she does.
She has to, because
That's her
if you
defense
get
mechanism.
to her, right, if you get to your sister and convert her to normalcy, right?
Well, she doesn't want that.
No, she doesn't want that. So she just has to keep intercepting the bond between she and you and monitor it and constantly keep on top of it. Because if you're such an outspoken and strong individual, then what if you have an influence on your sister? And what if she gets better? And what if her boundaries start shifting and she becomes a little bit more impermeable to your mother's wishes, wants, and needs? That would not be a good thing for your mother's narcissistic supply kit. It's going to run low really quickly.
Hell's bells.
Right.
I mean, literally, my sister is my mother's IV. And that, I mean, it's sad,
there you go.
but that's
good.
really the bottom line.
It's really impressive to me, because I know that a lot of you out there listen to these shows and that you're really thinking and you're learning, and I could tell that you're learning, because in my panel 7, maybe in a minute you'll put the mind map up, it's supposed to represent interconnection, but when panel 7 goes wrong, then it's really a vampiring effect. And instead of people supporting each other and creating synergy with each other, they're really sucking the lifeblood out of each other. Okay. And so I could tell that you're learning, because the way you use your words, that your mother's IV, you're understanding that you're not going to be her supply. And so the more you know, the more everyone who's listening knows, the less of a likelihood you are to be sucked into the system. And today I was talking a lot about core beliefs. And one of the things that I noted is that when people have these negative core beliefs, what happens is that the parents that created the negative core beliefs will get their other children to activate those core beliefs. So the siblings will take on the persona of the parents. So if the parent says to little Mary, "You're stupid," right? Then little Susie will chime in also and say, "Yeah, Mommy says you're stupid. See, I knew you were stupid." So the whole thing keeps self-infecting. So good for you.
Very self-infecting.
Yeah, so good for you that you're aware, you're studying, you're listening, and you're not going to fall at the effect of. You're not going to be victim to systems gone wrong, and that's the goal of this. The goal of this type of therapy, which is called the Be the Cause mind map therapy for healing human disconnect, is to morph people out of dysfunctional systems, and so that they no longer do what we call the WTF, or the what the Freud repeat and reinfect process. So I really appreciate you calling in, and just keep up with the boundaries, and don't get sucked into the vortex. Yeah.
I will not. I've been sucked into it before, and it is a complete refusal at this point, because I know my feelings are just as important.
Absolutely, they are. There's a book out I talk about all the time, Looking Out for Number One, which really isn't about being a narcissist or selfish. You know, it's like, if you don't look out for yourself, who's going to? If you're not loyal to yourself, who's going to be?
For sure, but then when you have dysfunctional people that tell you that if you are looking out for yourself, then they call you selfish. And you have to completely tell yourself that you're just being healthy. And I'm not saying it's been an easy road, because it hasn't been, but there's definitely a way out if you stay true to who you are.
And I'm sure your sister has given you a lot of grief with that, with the fact that, you know,
absolutely, she has. And I really hope one day for her that she sees the light. Unfortunately, I think she's a little too sucked into the situation, and it may take my mother dying before she sees the light. And I hate to say that, but that absolutely may be the truth.
You might be correct. Do you have a copy of Dr. Judy's book yet?
I do not, but I'm planning on getting one.
Well, I suggest you get it, and it's a good checkup in the neck up as well, in terms of reading some chapters, and it's there, and you can turn to it obviously all the time. It's a great
and I just wanted to say there's a section in there called Healthy Narcissism. Panel 5, I talk about healthy boundaries, healthy narcissism. Unhealthy narcissism is when you're sucking from someone else, and healthy narcissism is when you have healthy boundaries and you know how to care for yourself, and you know how to be that semi-permeable membrane, let in the good and keep out the bad. So pay attention to that section in the book, okay?
I will. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you guys being my tune-up therapy. That's what I keep calling you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Just, share, like, and subscribe, and get the word out.
And what is your name? I didn't get your name. I'm sorry.
My name is Dina.
Dina, thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate
it.
A
lot.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Our pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We
might have to recall the show, Sibling Rivalry and Narcissism.
Yeah, there's a sibling rivalry is as a result of these systems gone wrong.
Yes,
and
absolutely
so
it is.
Everyone's the fallout material.
It is. And so this is a call-in show, folks, and if you still want to get on the couch with Dr. Judy, there's still time. The number is area code 323-843-2826. That's 323-843-2826. We are here alive and live every Thursday at 8 o'clock Pacific here at UBN Radio. There's a couple of things I can elaborate here if you like. There's 10 reasons why siblings fight. I thought we can touch on that.
Please.
There's a lot of positive stuff, but we're going to do this. And if you want the show notes, you can write us an info at Dr. Judy WTF, and be happy to do that. I do a little bit of research for every show. But the number one is jealousy. It's very rare that two people have the same qualities, whether good or bad. Two siblings seldom have the same qualities. While one may be good at academics, and the other might be good at sports, and one might be good at music, and one might be good at dancing. So they're going to fight over the fact that I'm a better dancer, I'm a better musician, or whatever. So there's inherent jealousy
where
there.
The parents are not fostering individual talents; they're just pitting people against each other.
And narcissists do it the best.
Yeah.
Competition. Most common cause of fights is competition. One will win a medal or a trophy or even a certificate for something, and the other sibling is good too, but it's just not quite as good to get that trophy. So it kind of sours things between them. And then there's a little blip here about, I don't know where it is, about sometimes parents play favorites, and it gets, golden child, and sometimes that gets ugly as well.
And sometimes they rotate the players. So one will be golden for X amount of time, and then they'll be kind of ignored, and then maybe at another stage they'll be scapegoat. Very confusing. One type of sibling rivalry, I just wanted to touch upon it because it comes up a lot in my practice, is the type of sibling rivalry where the siblings are half brothers or sisters, or there is a situation where the mother is the bio mother, and then the mother marries another person, and then that sister is born, and what plays out between those siblings, and then situations where father leaves mother, and then the father has another family, and that father spends a lot of time with the other family, and the first family is no longer primary. And so again, it's the parents that are the cause, because in these cases, if the parents are even-handed with the children, and if they're welcome in two households, and if one parent is not the person who is now the rejecter of the other children because he has a new wife or she has a new husband, that'll help a lot. But that's not always the case, and there's so many factors. So I want everyone to be aware that sibling rivalry is a complicated situation, and there's not a single way to see this, not a single homogeneous situation. And so just understand that parents are the cause, and their parents are the cause, and their parents are the cause, and this is multi-generational. It's a system gone wrong. And so the siblings are at the effect of. I had an interesting situation today whereby the patient was relating that mother would compliment brother on how handsome he was, and imply, and not only imply, but directly tell him that he wasn't as good looking. What a horrible thing. And so guess what
So that was like a backhanded comment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what parents are thinking, but obviously I'm in the business of being around people who are damaged by the unhealth of their parents. And so what do you think this person's core belief is? Or one of them anyway.
I'm not good looking.
Yeah, I'm ugly.
I'm ugly.
I'm ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly. I'm not good looking. I'm ugly. I'll never be loved.
Who's going to love an ugly mug like me?
Yeah, and the irony is he's a really nice looking young man, and so it reminds me of the cracked lens of perception, so that he looks in the mirror and he sees himself through his mother's eyes, unfortunately, okay? And so the work we have cut out for us is for him to clear up his cracked lens of perception so that he no longer buys into defining himself and seeing himself through her eyes, because these are very, very poisonous eyes for him to see through.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, and then things are complicated about sibling rivalry is the fact that we will spend more time as children with our brothers and sisters than anybody else.
Right.
More than our parents because they're off to work, more than our friends because we live with our siblings, right? Sometimes we're in the same room when we sleep together.
And then parents will die,
and
too.
the parents are gone, and we're still with our siblings. So more than anyone else in their entire life. And by age 11, they've spent almost 1/3 of your life with your siblings, which is more than anybody. So this is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Third is age difference. Because an age difference, there could be a communication breakdown because, the younger and older. And most households have siblings, with an age group of 4 or 5 years, apart. But sometimes it gets more. I mean, I had a younger brother who was 7 years younger than me. I had siblings and a younger sister. And my sister and I never got along. My brother and I did, but it's an age difference can make a big difference. Then what's interesting is when I went off to college, my brother was still in school. So after that, it just the separation got a little more. We stayed in touch, but we're not as close as we should be because again, this the age difference in terms of where we are in life.
Right, and sometimes with that type of age difference, the last child might even feel like they're the only child because they're treated like an only child. So even though they're the youngest, it's another situation of only, especially if there's a 20-year difference. Those older siblings are out of the house.
Yep, absolutely. Stress is a big one, and we've talked a lot about this one. We live on times the term stress has become an indispensable part of our lives. It just takes for one sibling in the mood of teasing or irritating to the other, and boom, before you know it, there's an argument and there's a disagreement and there's a fight. Parental praise. Most of and we've talked about this one already, most of them say out loud, but say that they like all their children the same, but all children crave for parental attention and praise. All children. So, again, if they put a little more emphasis on one child over the other, that could lead to some animosity, right? And a fight.
And I just wanted to say something.
It's parent-driven.
Right, and I just wanted to say something that in terms of the dynamics of the family, let's say mother loves to play the piano and one of her children loves to play the piano. That child might be the golden child just because that child loves to play the piano. Or the child might act as if she loves to play or he loves to play the piano to please mom to get that status. So there's this inauthenticity that's created with these kinds of woundings because the children will always want to please the parent and they'll jump up and down and morph themselves into any shape and size just to do this.
And get parental praise, parental attention. You bet.
Sure.
The television remote.
Oh, okay.
They multiply too. There's always fighting over the remote, what station to watch, what show to watch, right? And usually the stronger one wins and the other one goes crying. I thought that was very interesting that, in today's world, we've got to fight over the remote.
Remember when we did that show about authoritarian versus authoritative parents?
Authoritarian versus authoritative.
Which is which, but I think the authoritarian was the bossy, right? And the authoritative is where the children knew the rules.
Yes.
And there was a
little
sense
more healthy.
of health because they knew the rules, and then there was the laissez-faire, do whatever they want.
Right.
So depending on how the parents are with the children, whether they're authoritarian or whether they're authoritative or laissez-faire, that can create a whole system within the system. And so authoritarian families might create a lot of fear amongst the children.
Yes.
And laissez-faire is just kind of like no boundaries, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So kids can smack each other around, they can scapegoat each other, right? They can project on each other the anger that they feel toward their parents.
Well, one article I read talked about that. If the kids fight, leave them alone and let them work it out, unless really hurtful words are used or
physical pain.
It gets very physical because they got to work it out, and because they're going to be together for a whole lot longer than mom and dad are, and so there's a balance and boundaries, and of course it's different with every situation and every family, but sometimes that does work and sometimes it does not.
And let's not forget, when children are watching their parents fight, and if their parents are brutally fighting, that's not the best role model. Or if parents are, on the other hand, passive aggressive, then they may adopt that style. Or if they're simply disconnected from each other, they may adopt that style. So, as you like to say, it's not what the parents say, it's what they do.
Yeah, your mom and dad are arguing and they're screaming at each other and the door's closed in the bedroom, but guess what? We can still hear them screaming at each other even though the bedroom door is closed.
Right,
So,
and no matter whether the parents say, hey, don't scream, they're screaming. That's what the children are learning.
Yep. Absolutely. Sharing food. And they've been more specific in the refrigerator, right? How much we love our refrigerator, okay? Open the refrigerator doors and probably been a silent spectator, more sibling fights than anything. I mean, what to eat, what's there, that's mine, that's yours. My sister was very jealous of me, talking about jealousy. I was her older brother, and I weighed less than she did. She had a challenge with weight, and I ate anything I wanted, and I was out active and riding a bike and whatnot, and it just really rubbed her the wrong way that my older brother is like this green bean and I'm not.
Yeah, you can wear the 2-piece bikini. And
yeah, I try and stick it to my one piece, but sometimes
that's good, Walt.
I always tell people, I'm going to come swimming. I'm going to bring my one piece. Unequal treatment. This is another classic reason fights between siblings. Unequal treatments when it comes to various things, the amount of pocket money or clothes. Sometimes through ideally shouldn't happen, but parents favor one child over the other. and kids see it, right? You give shopping money or anything that kind of like you don't think anything of it, but you're giving more or helping more, or maybe you're paying one kid's phone bill and you're not paying the other, or it could be anything like that you don't think anything of. But trust me, I have a definition of children, and it's called God's little spies. Mm-hmm. So they notice these things.
Notice everything.
Absolutely.
Brother got the biggest piece of cake, or he went to the better school, or his wardrobe is just a little nicer, or they're just doing their psychological accounting, and they're adding it up to mean I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm this. There go those horrible core beliefs that get tripped up.
Giving each other their space. Teenagers need space. And if they don't get enough space, then obviously there could be conflict, right? You want to do homework. You want to be left alone. You're trying to contemplate your navel. Mm-hmm. And they just want to be left alone, and that fuels fighting as well. And then lastly, touching or taking other stuff. A lot of talking about, you have to have each individual child has their own things, and that's their stuff. In my case, I got a stereo early on, and my sister just loved to go through my records. And it made me mad because I was buying them. I had a job. I was working. And she's like, "Where's my records?" And they were missing. So
and sometimes parents won't intervene, and they'll even
my parents didn't.
They might even do worse than that and say, "Hey, come on, Walt, why don't you share your records?" But mom, she doesn't return them, and then there's no boundaries and there's no support for your position.
Exactly. So to look a little more at the positive stuff, having a sibling is good for you because blood really is thicker than water. And, people grow up with siblings are more authentic, and many times it does improve your health, and they are happier in more instances than not. And you've got a best friend, and you grew up together, and, it can work. I have 2 daughters, and they're totally different, and they're bestest friends, and they live in different states. So, it can work the other way as well. Again, it's the longest relationship you're ever going to have. And empathy grows with siblings because you grew up together, you went through the same trials and tribulations and stuff like that. Birth order, again, has it, older, younger. Adult sibling rivalry. Research has shown that 33% of us conflict shown between siblings endures over a lifetime.
The conflicts endure over a lifetime?
Yeah.
That's how deep it goes.
Yes, very much so. Mm-hmm. For those adults, contact with their siblings inevitably results in their buttons being pushed and older childhood roles being recast, right? They get right in that rut and away it goes.
And the sad thing is that a lot of the conflict has to do with the fact that they're projecting their anger onto their siblings that really belongs to the anger they have toward their parents.
Yes.
So it's just this whole big messy projection process, because nobody could talk to mom or dad and tell them how they really feel, because they'll get maybe slapped up the side of their head if they really express their true feelings. So the siblings get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we did. And then one more. Fostering adult sibling relationships. Sibling relationships can change dramatically over the one's lifetime. Major events of all stages can have an impact, whether one gets married, right? Sure. You're really close to your brother or sister, and all of a sudden they've got a spouse you got to deal with, and may have be split, or death, illness, abuse, homelessness, are just some examples of shared events. And that could be, hey, you're making more money than I can, and you're making the big bucks and I'm not, so share some of your money, and they've got the responsibilities, and they've got a family to take care of and whatnot, and there could be a huge rift in that regard. So it can go a lot of different directions.
And how about inheritance, right?
Inheritance.
That's another big deal.
Absolutely,
well, you were good to me, therefore you're going to get the bigger chunk of change. Nah, you weren't so good. So, and then of course, when the money does get doled out, there's just a tremendous sense of anger toward the sibling that got the pot of gold.
And we've talked about that, the financial bondage that narcissist parents put the kids under.
Right.
And if you don't hang around and dance to our tune, then that little will we've got, it might be thinner. It might be left out.
Yeah.
So
and
it's not
parents
easy.
have a situation where parents are holding that. A couple of situations where parents hold this over their children's head, if you don't behave the way we want you to behave, you're not good children, so you don't deserve the money.
Of course you're not good
It's very
children.
sad.
Yeah. So that is about all we have time for. I mean, this show went quick. With Sibling Rivalry, if you have a question or challenge, be sure to call us. The Psychological Healing Center is very, very helpful and have a plethora of therapists to help you in any sliding scale, whether you're here or abroad. Dr. Judy has clients, I think I mentioned, on 4 continents right now. So that's really fun to juggle. And we're going to shrink that tune in a second, but we're here to help.
Yeah, and please feel free to write us and reach out to us. And I know we can't cover all the questions, I'm sure, as you watch the episodes or you think upon what was said, you might have a question or two, and Walt has all the notes, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah, they're all in Word format, so if you want any notes at all, it's not a challenge. Just shoot us an email. I'll pass them on to you. I've done the research and kind of digested it all in terms of an encapsulated form. Like 30 or 40 pages per show. So if you want to know more, feel free of any show, actually, that you want. Be happy to get those notes to you. And they've been very, very helpful in many, many instances.
And also download the app. That's an easy way to get on the show.
And there's an app on the iPhone, Psychological Healing Center, PHC, is on your iPhone. And you can do that, and you can find a radio show. You can find excerpts from Dr. Judy's book. And, of course, there's a blog as well. Or you can go to drjudywtf.com or psychologicalhealingcenter.com as well.
Thank you.
And so the song we're going to shrink is from one of my favorite groups, and I've always wanted to do one of these, and it's from Coldplay. And it's entitled Brothers and Sisters. So I'm going to read the lyrics, and then, of course, Dr. Judy is going to interpret it from her psychological mind map perspective. And I feel that once you go through this, I promise you will never hear these songs the same again. And we do requests as well. So, brothers and sisters, unite. It is time. It's the time of your lives. It's a time of your lives. Break down, break down. Gotta spread love around. Gotta spread love around.
Well, that's an ideal situation. Brothers and sisters unite. That's beautiful because, as you said, blood is really thick. It's time of your lives. The union and the love is in a situation where that's encouraged. Okay, but not always. Family system's gone wrong. Don't unite sisters and brothers. They disconnect brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Brothers and sisters, feel fine. It's the time of your lives. It's the time of your lives. There's no sound like this feeling you found, like this feeling you found.
Well, because there's nothing better than an interconnection between siblings. Again, it should be the time of your life to celebrate each other, and it should be this amazing, loving feeling, but oftentimes it's just not set up that way.
Unfortunately, it's not. But just stay down, because sometimes you feel, so stay down. And sometimes you feel, and it's me they're looking for, and it's me, I will never survive, but will be around some more.
I don't understand this stanza really about staying down, because sometimes you feel, so stay down. I'm really not connecting with it. But the gist of it is that the implication is that they need each other to survive, okay? And again, we are wired to connect, but then when parents wedge between siblings, then it cuts down their chance of survival in terms of not having this family protection.
Being united.
Right, being united.
Because we're all after the one main thing, and that is unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Brothers and sisters, unite. It's time of your lives. It's time of your life. Break down, break down. Got to spread love around. Got to spread love around. But just stay down, and sometimes you feel, so stay around. And sometimes you feel, and it's me they're looking for, and it's me. I will never survive, but will be around some more. And it's going to be all right.
Well, it is all right if no one interferes, right? Problem is that there's a lot of interference and a lot of scapegoating and a lot of devaluation and idealization and projection, so that brothers and sisters have a hard time uniting when the family is disunited.
Absolutely. And the ninth panel of the mind map is unity. And so if you want to be a little more unified with yourself, since the show is called Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, then I encourage you to get Dr. Judy's book and maybe get a free 15-minute consult with Dr. Judy. And you can do that. And if you want to know more, you can do that. You can contact us at drjudywtf.com or write at info@drjudywtf.com as well. And, of course, you can find us on YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, and we love all the comments and the letters, and we'll have more next time. And we hope we have more calls next time, too. We love it when you guys call. And that's it for our show for Sibling Rivalry number 2 with Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud, here at UBN Radio. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, with Dr. Judy Rosenberg. Until next time, God bless everyone.